Hi, I'm Emma Pallant. I was second at the 70.3 World Championships, and here I am on the Physical Performance Show.
And the winner is...
Failure is not an option.
I've had my ups and my downs.
Phelps with 10 meters left. 3 minutes too good. The crowd roaring. Freeman wins gold.
I think it's an absolutely breakthrough experience.
Welcome to the Physical Performance Show, the show designed to inspire the pursuit of your physical best performance. I'm your host, Brad Beer. Listen in as we delve into how the world's top physical performers achieve their success, as well as the highs, the lows, and the journey of getting there. Let's get ready, set, let's go. Listeners, welcome to another episode of the Physical Performance Show. I trust you well, and I hope you've been enjoying pursuing your physical best. Listeners, on today's episode, we're in for a treat, a great British treat. Today, we're speaking with Emma Pallant. Emma Pallant has been a long-distance triathlete who has been on an absolute roll in 2017. Emma's background has been track running and distance running, where Emma succumbed to a knee injury that saw her out of Olympic Games contention for London in 2012. Emma boasts some very credible running PBs. Emma's also a trained physiotherapist, which is a whole lot of fun to connect with Emma on at that level. But of note this year, and in terms of achievements, Emma went on a roll being in 4 weeks, 3 World Championships, 3 podiums, culminating in a second at the 70.3 World Ironman Championships in Penticon. In 2017, as well as the pinnacle, which was a silver medal at the World 70.3 Ironman Championships, Emma's also taken podiums in Barcelona, Scotland, second in Bahrain, Ironman Mallorca, Gran Canaria, Challenge Triathlon. It's just been an incredible year that Emma has had. Emma is a Team Dylan coaching athlete, and she's also the 2015 World Duathlon Champion. In 2017, Emma took out a bronze medal in the World Duathlon Champs. This is a great interview where Emma takes us through the start of her career right through to this now run of great form. So this is a young lady on the rise, Emma Pallant, great British long course triathlete. Let's jump straight in. Well, listeners, I think you're going to really enjoy today's guest, Emma Pallant, all the way from the UK, who has just been setting the world of 70.3 triathlon, not to mention aquathlon and also the duathlon world scene on fire. Emma, absolutely great to connect with you.
Hi, Brad. Brilliant to speak to you.
And Emma, we connected recently at the Jersey Super League, but before we go there, let's start with something a little bit fun. What's one thing that scares Emma Pallant?
Oh, good question. Getting ill, I'd say that's my biggest. Shouldn't really be a fear, but yeah, that's what scares me.
What scares you about getting ill specifically?
Do you know what? Like, it's happened a few times when I have a tendency to overcook it, so I can feel awesome, be flying in training, really gearing up to something, and then I mean, less so now, but I used to then just kind of push it over the edge, especially as a runner where I didn't have as good a diet. At the worst timings, I've been ill a couple of times.
Emma, at the bottom of your email signature, you've got this quote: "Train with the fight of the underdog, race with the confidence of a champion." What's the background with that one? It's a great quote.
Yeah, I just think it's something that kind of, I think a lot of the time, I mean, I love training. I think that, again, that's why triathlon maybe suits me better than running, because you can do more of it. But I just, I kind of feel like if you have that real fight in training where you can push your body to the deepest, darkest place, then you're never going to get that same kind of pain in a race, because you're always going to race a little bit fresher than you train. So I think if you just have that spirit of someone that is always having to battle, that isn't complacent, and that fights through the toughest of sessions, then sometimes you can race and feel like you're floating. And doesn't mean to say that you're winning the race, but winning the challenges of, so being a champion is not just winning the race. I think it can be overcoming your own goals and your own mental battles, and being a champion of the dreams that you have.
And talking about genes, Emma, where do you think your fight comes from? I mean, we're going to go through your story. You've come from a well-credentialed middle-distance running career to really from 2012 onwards, take to the sport of triathlon with such great results. Where does your fight come from? Is it a bit of nature and nurture? Where's Emma Pallant's get up and go originate from?
I think probably just because I'm so competitive. I kind of, I've always been that way as a little kid, and also kind of, I love a project. I'm a bit of a perfectionist. So if it's something that interests me and I want to do it, then I want to do it right, and I want to put everything into it. Just do it the best of my ability. And I think that's, again, some of that is competition, and sometimes just being competitive and expecting always a higher standard of yourself. Because I think then when you really nail something, like nothing beats that feeling of satisfaction.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've always been very focused, even as a young girl. We're going to go there in a moment.
Yeah, I think so. And yeah, I think my little brother would probably agree. I think it put him off sport for life. He's now a ballet dancer, so he's gone totally a different direction. But I had to win everything. Like even on family holidays, if he was beating me, we were playing tennis, then even if it was getting dark, I wouldn't finish the match until I was in the lead. So
Emma, let's shift to the family life. Growing up, there was your brother and yourself, your younger brother. Any other siblings?
Yeah. We had an older sister, the sensible one.
Athletic?
I think she'd kill me if I said she wasn't, but more for the social. Like she loved looking after people. She was like the mumsy one. So she joined the local. She actually was the one that kept me swimming probably longer than I would, because she was club captain and organised everything. And if kind of I couldn't commit to the swimming, so I wouldn't do the training. But if there was like a spot in a relay team or a place in a gala that needed filling, then I just dive in the water and give it a shot. And
Emma, mum and dad are quite sporting, or where do your genes come from, do you think?
Yeah, I'm not sure where the genes, like my mum's more of a supporter, so she is like probably the reason why I could do what I wanted to do, because she was so supportive. She was a doctor, she had 3 kids, and yet she'd still drive us around. Like if my dad was off sailing, she'd drive us around the country to whatever we want. She'd come to every race, and even now, like she will watch every race online that she isn't at. My mum's the one that I really have to thank for everything, I think.
Yeah, I'll forget about dad, hey? I'm joking. Did I hear correctly? Your mum's a doctor?
Yes. Yeah.
So what is it, Emma, about? It must be a prerequisite for great British triathlon talent that your parents are doctors. I mean, Alistair and Johnny Brownlee, the parents are doctors, so I believe one of them is, the father maybe. So maybe there's something to that, hey?
Well, my mum, just my mum's a doctor, and my dad actually, that's how they met. He went to med school, but he hasn't got the strength of my mum. Like she sticks things out, and he dropped out halfway, I think, and went to the army instead. But my mum, she kind of inspired me as well to, I wanted to be a doctor, but I have a really annoying habit of fainting at the sight of blood. So, I decided to go for physio instead. And, much to a little bit of disappointment.
Did you finish your physio degree?
Yes, I did. Yep. Followed in my mum's footsteps, not my dad's.
Oh, you didn't tell me that when we met at Jersey.
Oh, I don't like to, I haven't been up to date with my HPC, so I no longer class myself as a physio.
Okay. Well, I would have been nervous treating you if I knew you were a physio. But Emma, your junior years were spent middle distance running, and I believe you ran qualifying times for Beijing and London, the Olympics. I mean, some of your credentials as a junior runner, you were the European cross country champion. You were also, that was for under 23, that is, in 2012. You were third at the World Juniors in the 1,500 metres in 2008. Well credentialed. Your PBs are very impressive. 5K, 15:35. Some of these might have been bettered by now. 3K, 9:07. Emma, how did the running bug start for you? What was the first thing that drew you towards pursuing your best in running?
Yeah, so when I was little, I kind of I did everything. Actually, one of my favourite things was football. So I was in a boys' team, and I used to love. Again, I think my mum probably is glad that I went to running, because she used to hate standing on the touchline with all the competitive dads. But so then you get to a certain age, and then you can no longer play with the boys, and girls' football didn't really interest me. I was kind of just doing every sport at school, and I was probably only about 14, and my running coach was like, it's great that you do everything, but he said, if you actually want to be the best at something, then you have to stick to kind of one thing, choose your favourite sport, and actually start committing to it. For me that was a pretty easy choice. Like the running was always the favourite thing. And so we increased my training. So I was going down to the club more often. I cut out the other things that I was doing, and it kind of went off from there. And
Emma, were you always at the pointy end, or did you have to work hard to get some of those early results?
I was quite lucky in the fact, the first running race I'd ever done. So my sister was in the oldest year at school, and I was in the youngest, and they run everyone together in this like big inter-schools cross country championships, and she trained a little bit up for it, and I'd never really, like, I was doing all my team sports, I remember beating her, which was probably the thing that spurred me on. And ended her running career. It
worked well for you, Emma, not so much for your sister.
Yeah.
And of all the credentials, what's your highlight from your junior running years? I'm itching to find out about these qualifying Olympic times, but what was your one highlight, the most memorable result that you achieved between, starting, and what was your sort of intersection up to 2012? Yeah,
I'd probably say it was the World Junior Bronze. The 1,500 metres, just because it was a thing of, so they'd already picked 2 seniors to go to the Beijing Olympics, and then there was one spot left. So it was between me and my best friend, so Steph Twell, but because we'd missed the trials to go to this junior championships, and basically the first one across the line, but we had to get in the top 3, would then be selected. So it was a really high pressure race, and again, because it was my best friend, it had those extra challenges kind of leading up to it. Sort of she went off and trained with Mick in some sessions, and I went and trained. Kelly Holmes flew out. She was my mentor at the time, so I trained with her leading into it, and it was just real. I don't know, it seemed like an all or nothing race, and at the time, like, we were still juniors, and to go to the Olympics was a massive thing. And we did the race, and she won the race. So she was world champion, and I came third. But to stand on the podium with your best friend and to celebrate after, and if there was anyone if I wasn't going to go, if anyone else I want to go, it would have been her. And it was just a really special kind of personal moment, I think.
And so, Emma, the qualifying times, did they occur before you had your knee surgery, or was this, obviously they did, and was that the thing that didn't see you go through, or you mean she got selected ahead of you?
Yeah, so there was only one spot for that one left, because they'd picked 2 seniors from the trials. So, yeah, they took one junior, so that was her. Okay,
now I understand. And that was the same then was that for Beijing or for London?
That was for Beijing.
For Beijing.
And then London. So by that time I hadn't had knee surgery. So all was really good. And then, the knee surgery came after.
And let's go there now, the knee surgery, because this, from what I can gather, was kind of the beginning of the end of your running aspirations as a runner, a solo runner, as a runner, not a triathlete. What was the story there? What was the injury, and what took you through to surgery?
Yeah, so it's shortly after kind of that stint of having got so close to Beijing. That just was a real driving force, and I thought, you know what, this is for me. Like, I started really believing in myself and chucking in my own. So I'd go down to the club sessions, and then outside of that, I'd do extra training, and I was really, really pushing my body, and still quite young. And so that was probably the age of 16. So 16, 17, I was taking a little bit on my own shoulders of extra training, and I had this niggle in my knee, and probably on and off for about a year and a half. I stupidly just kept running through it, and just thought, you know what, it's only pain, and just convinced myself it was no big deal, it would eventually go away. But eventually I got to the stage where even sort of walking down the stairs, I had this shooting pain. Went to UK Athletics because I was on funding at the time. And the damage that I'd done to the tendon was irreversible. Like, no conservative treatment would have helped it. So I had to go in for surgery.
And this, Emma, was a patella tendon?
Yes, yeah, the patella tendon.
And so what was it, a bit of a shave of the tendon, or what was it, a bit of debridement?
Yeah, so the gap was so it separated so much. The centerline gap was so big, they thought it was actually a tear at the time. So they went for Hakan Alfredson. So he's one of the leading in the whole eccentric tendon motion. They flew him into London, and he was all ready to operate on a tear. And then went in and found that it was just really, like, badly separated. So they scraped on top and underneath, and just cut out the nerves and the blood vessels and everything. And he said it was quite a mess, but I think he did a good job. Well,
we've had Craig Mottram, Australian 5,000 metre World Athletics Championship medalist, who also had Alfred operate on his Achilles successfully, and Craig came back off the back of that and ran I think it was a startling 12:53 for the 5,000 metres after years of battling with it. So you're the second guest that's had Alfred do his magic.
Yeah, he's a good guy, really good guy.
So Emma, what was the dream as a junior runner?
I think the dream was just to see how fast I could run. Sort of like I think for track it's that goal of a PB. It's such a black and white kind of situation. You just always want to drive your time down. You always want to be that person standing on the start line, knowing that you're kind of heading the field. And again, that was my 1,500 championship races were becoming more like kind of 800, 400 races. And my strength is more the endurance end of it. So I think looking back, I probably should have focused a little bit more on tactics and being in the race rather than always going to time trials, always just trying to chase the time. So
you didn't mind hurting the field from the get-go?
Yeah. Much to my coach's annoyance.
And much to Triathlon World's delight. Emma, just before we move off that little period in your life, what was your volume like, as that 16 and 17-year-old pushing it with that patella tendon injury? I mean, were you running big volume or small volume, lots of intensity? What did training look like for you at that point?
Yeah, so my coach was quite a big volume kind of methodology anyway, and so sessions would be up to kind of 10k and sometimes 12k at the weekend. We do our long runs, kind of our long build run on one day, and then 12k worth of reps the next day. Then we'd always have a hill session in the week and a track session. And he always believed in Friday being the rest day. And this is where kind of, I think his mileage alone, it would have been on the high side anyway. But on top of that, I was kind of adding in double runs. I wouldn't take a rest day, so I'd always add in something that I wanted to do on a Friday. And yeah, I had a little dog come along, so I used to always run with him instead of taking for a walk. So yeah, I was running quite, I would say my volume was really high.
To put a number around it, just to put us in perspective, approximately how many miles a week?
Geez, I say I do at least an hour a day.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not sure what that is in mileage. I was a stopwatch girl.
You're a stopwatch girl. So Emma, you had surgery. What was your recovery like? How long was it before you were back running with confidence? Yeah,
I'd say it was pretty quick. So I came out in crutches, had a couple of weeks on crutches, and even in that time I was on the hand cycle. I strapped my leg to the rower. I do one-legged rowing. I like heart and lungs wise, I probably never lost any fitness. But yeah, it was a really draining period because I was writing my dissertation at the time as well. And I was just locking myself for hours away in the gym in between that and on placement. And I came back way too fast. So I came back and I still had knee pain. So I started running probably 4 weeks later, which again, it was way too fast. And then that just started kind of a vicious cycle of on-off running. And that's when I brought in swimming and cycling to kind of, on the days that I felt pain, I'd swim and cycle instead.
And the year was 2012, I believe. And what was there someone was that this you picking up the bike and jumping in the pool, or was there someone that said, hey, Emma, come and put your attention over here? And was it serious at that point, or was it just a bit of cross training? You were still focused on running?
Yeah, no, I was still very much kind of focused on 2012. I was still training with Steph, and I was like, it was probably more, I mean, everyone was telling me, like, setting me aqua jogging, and I just never really got on with it. I didn't feel like I could really push myself. And so that's when I started experimenting more with, like, I was starting to get hand blisters from the hand cycle. And I thought, okay, I'll go back to swimming. And the bike again, I was just kind of trying to emulate the type of run sessions that I was doing on the bike, and then using the swim more as like my hour of steady work. So still almost just chasing it like run training rather than doing anything in particular.
Listeners, today's show is lovingly brought to you, as always, by POGO Physio. We exist to help you perform at your physical best, and we do this through our industry-first, fixed-fee, unlimited access, 2, 6 and 12-week finish line programs. It's real simple. We want everyone who walks through the doors of POGO to get a high-five moment where we tell you that we love you, but you don't need to come back because you have finished your rehabilitation and you're back to your physical best. In addition to our finish line programs, POGO Physio also offers our patients unique wellness boosters, which are low-cost monthly services whereby patients can also rehabilitate back to their physical best. For more information about the wellness boosters or the finish line programs, or even our 1-hour initial consultations, be sure to jump over to pogophysio.com.au and stay tuned for POGO Physio services coming to practices near you via our POGO Partners program. If you missed last week's episode of the Physical Performance Show, then it was an information bounty. It was with Dr. Christopher Vitulo, internationally acclaimed knee surgeon hailing from the Gold Coast here in Australia. Dr. Vitulo spoke through all things relating to knee health and how to get the best out of your knees for your physical endeavours. Here's a little snippet. If you missed it, jump back, listen, and also check out the other archives.
There's some interesting statistics. The two number one indicators of re-injury are age, and the second one is actually the slope of your tibia. So the higher your tibial slope is, and the magic figure's around 12 degrees out of some research out of Sydney, then you're much more likely to re-injure yourself.
And now let's jump back with Emma Pallant. And so your first triathlon, how did you enter that? What was it and how did you go?
Yeah, so it was London Triathlon. It was actually, so I'd done the 2012 trials. I pulled out because my knee was just massive again. I was stupid in the 2 weeks leading up to it. I kind of panic trained and I ran every day. I was taking anti-inflammatories on the start line and I got halfway around the race. I just thought I cannot run in this pain anymore. Like if this is what the Olympics is going to feel like, then I don't want to go anyway. And I stepped off the track and I wasn't really sure what I was going to do. I was just questioning the whole of life. And Kelly Holmes was there at the time and she came out of the stadium and had a chat with me and she was like, listen, I know you've been doing a lot of kind of swimming and biking. Well, why don't you just have a focus goal with that? So she had a charity spot for a charity in the London Triathlon, which was kind of a couple of months down the line. She was like, listen, why don't you use that to focus your swim and bike training and then just run with kind of the fitness that you have on the day. So they actually bumped me up to the elite wave. And it's probably about a couple of weeks into doing this training, I thought I should probably get some specialized advice here. So I contacted British Triathlon again, wanting to do it the best. And they were like, yeah, we're interested. We'll give you this coach. And so I talked to this coach and he was setting me for a couple of weeks, kind of some online stuff, but it didn't really change to what I was doing. It was kind of all on a spin bike and it was, longer swims. And I just thought there must be a little bit more to triathlon than kind of what I'm doing now. That's when I started searching again and found Michelle Dillon, who was a Commonwealth runner, turned to triathlon. And I heard all about her story and I thought, if I just email this lady, then maybe she can just, let's imagine I had a really good race at London Triathlon, maybe that would interest her to kind of eventually taking me on kind of further down the line when I'm good enough. I emailed her and she was happy to help me from the start. So now this is 2 weeks before the race. Drove up to Loughborough, met Stu Hayes. Kind of went from there. She lent me her wetsuit, her bike, and got me to the start. I actually hate to think what I would have been like, having not had that week and a half of training with her before the race. I actually dread to think what I'd be like starting an elite triathlon with the lack of knowledge that I had up to that point.
And had you done a transition at that point at all, or were your first swim to bike, bike to run transitions during your first race, the British National Triathlon?
Well, actually, the first day, so I never got out of the small chain ring until I met Michelle. The first day that I went up to Loughborough and met with her, she showed me, she actually pulled her calf, showing me how to run off the bike. Again, I'd never run actually off a bike. And all kind of things like I was telling her about all these greedy people that I'd been out for a ride with a guy and he was really greedy because he took food with him. And she was like, no, you have to eat. I was like, well, why can't he eat either side of training? Why is he eating on the ride? And she was like, oh, no, you've got so much to learn.
That was obviously, the inheritance of your running background where every gram counts. And just on the running, you were how old when you were 2012? What was your age then?
So... Good question. 2012, that I would have been 19.
Yeah, so you were 19. And what event were you hoping to run at the London Olympics? What were you trialling for? What distance?
So I'd actually moved up to 5K.
Okay.
By then, again, because I couldn't do any of the weights in the gym and none of the speed work. So, I was starting to step up.
Got it. So you enter this triathlon. You have a week and a half with Michelle Dillon and Stuart Hayes. And how does it play out for you, your first triathlon? In the elite wave.
Yeah. So again, I just remember Stu setting up all of my literally he must have thought this girl is so dumb because he did everything for me that day. It was actually really good because he was obviously in the race as well. And because it was just after he'd done the 2012 Olympics. And the swim, I went totally off course. So my sighting was horrific. I came back, I don't know how many minutes behind. Biked pretty much on my own. And then I think I ran through to sixth. So I got the fastest run of the day, which I guess that was something, hey?
Well, that's promising.
But it's actually a race that, so Daniela Riff.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Well, that's quite symbolic, and it was definitely a sign of things to come. And then between that, humble first triathlon, Emma, and our chat today, October 2017, you have achieved some remarkable things. I mean, there's 2 duathlon world championships in there, 2015, 2016. There's 6 70.3 Ironman podiums. There's the UK 70.3 championship triathlon. There is also this year, which has been a bumper year, 4 weeks, 3 world champs and 3 podiums. I mean, you have gone on to really have a meteoric rise. Why the 70.3 distance? What do you think was the affinity for that? And what led you to make that decision?
Yeah, so I actually started off with, it's kind of in the sprint Olympic type distance. So I went on from my first triathlon and just knew that kind of Michelle and Stu were the right people for me. So I went out to Australia for a real crash course in triathlon with them. And those couple of months in Australia were massively eye-opening. And most of all, Michelle kind of changed my whole run technique. So that was the major turning point for me, because before then I probably couldn't run 20, 30 minutes without pain. And yeah, then we built it up to kind of like now running 2 hours with absolutely no pain. So yeah, I went to kind of the whole ITU thing, first of all, but again, being coached by Michelle and being down in London, they very much are under the kind of thinking that you have to buy into one of their coaches, one of their programs. Like if you want the support from British Triathlon, then you have to buy into one of their centres. But for me, I just knew that kind of wasn't right. That Michelle and Stu were doing a good job with me, and also like a loyalty kind of thing. I think once you start building a relationship with people, like with my running coach, I had the same coach from when I was 8 years old, and it wasn't until I moved to triathlon that I kind of moved coaches. And I don't know, I really struggled with the fact that there was no kind of way of being supported by British Triathlon. And I'm not just talking financially, but kind of from the point of it was all up to them to get you into a race. So I went around doing my kind of European type thing, getting the points for the World Cups, and then for the World Cups, getting the points for the main World Series races. And the final point for me where I thought, do you know what, I just, like, I can't fight a whole federation anymore, because I felt as well that I was moaning all the time, that it was just really negative, that I was doing too much kind of talking about what I couldn't do, because they weren't putting me into races, then being proactive and getting out there and doing the races that I could. And yes, it was Hamburg World Series race. So they only had 2 girls on the start line. Again, I received nothing from them. I paid my way to every single race. I'd got up all my points. I came 10th in Cape Town World Series race. And yet they wouldn't put my name forward for entry for Hamburg. And yeah, by then I just thought, you know what, you can't plan a race season if you don't know, if you're just out there beck and call where they can give you no reason and just say, no, we're not putting your name forward. So yeah, I decided that Ironman and half Ironman is something that you can do where you're kind of entering yourself, you're in control of what races you do. And it was just more of a positive step than sitting around just waiting for a federation to tell me what I could do. But then having said that, I think, again, it was the best thing for me. 70.3 is all about time trialing. It's all about less tactics, just get out there and give it everything. And you can do more training. So again, I think out of a negative situation, it's done me a massive favour.
And what was your first 70.3 triathlon then, Emma? What was the which race and what was the experience like?
The first one was out in Brazil, and it was a really last minute decision actually, because we'd just been told that I hadn't got into a race, and I was really angry, and I just said to Michelle, like, I'm going to book one up, and went online and thought, okay, because I hadn't got my Ironman license. So I thought, there's a challenge race in Brazil, and I was like, I'm going to do that one. And Michelle, and she was like, listen, you've never done this before, you don't have a time trial bike, and it's going to be really, really hot. And I was like, do you know what, I can do it. And this is probably like a month or so out. I was like, I just need to experience it. So I borrowed a friend's time trial bike, and Michelle came out with me and had a good swim. Got overtaken by someone on the bike, and I think I was maybe about in third place or something coming onto the run, and I went out like hard, like I was pushing it. I'd lost one of my drink bottles on a speed bump on the bike, so probably hadn't drunk enough, didn't know anything about fueling, and after 10k I thought, okay, this is like now, like I'm normally finished by now, feel a bit funny, a little bit tired, and I just thought, okay, mentally just start counting to yourself, because I knew that's something that Paula Ratcliffe used to do when she was really hurting in a marathon. She'd just like count in her head to keep her in rhythm.
Cadence or just pure counting? Just
counting, just to like focus your breath. I thought, come on, because I felt a bit faint and like I'm used to fainting all the time whenever I see blood or anything. I've got really low blood pressure. I thought, hey, this isn't good if I do it in a race. So I thought, okay, just focus my mind. So just random, just counting, and then I started counting backwards. And then I started really not feeling well. So with about a K to go, I was in the lead by, I think, like 7 minutes or something. Michelle's at the finish line waiting for me. And, I just saw black. And the next thing I remember was just, like, waking up with loads of, like, heads looking down at me and all this, no. Like, hardly anyone spoke English. It was a bit of an experience. But eventually, like, the medics came and gave me loads of water, etc. But I made sure that I stayed on the course. And I was at a drink station anyway, I think, at the time. So legally managed to finish probably about half an hour later. I think I came fifth or something. I literally reached the last K. It was so painful. And I thought, man, do you know what? I absolutely love that. Like, that's a race where you finish with nothing left. And Michelle was less impressed because she standing at the finish line thinking, when's she coming? And then obviously when people started coming around, she was like, oh no, what's happened to her? And they were like, oh, she passed away on the course. Which obviously in their English, they meant passed out, not passed away.
Oh gosh. And Michelle thought she'd lost you.
I think she thought she'd have a quieter trip home.
Oh my gosh. And so did you learn from that for your second one? Did your second 70.3 go a little bit more smoothly?
Yeah, I learned so much. I mean, it didn't actually go smoothly because I crashed and I broke my clavicle, but nutrition wise I was spot on for the second one.
What about your third 70.3? How'd that one go?
Okay, yeah, now we're talking. That was better. The third one, I think it was in Mallorca. I think I came third.
So you got on that podium in your third 70.3. Very impressive. Emma, before we jump over to a performance round, to date, what's your most memorable race and achievement and why?
I think probably I'd say the World 70.3s that's just gone. Just purely because there was a lot in the build up to it that happened. There was a lot kind of that people invested in me, now being with the team BMC. Just the amazing support that I had from them, Michelle and Stuart being through a really difficult month, and yet never kind of left my side, never stopped focusing on this race. And again, it was that race that I just went into it, and I knew the kind of quality of field that was there, and I felt all that pressure in a good way. But I just felt like for all the people that had helped me to this point, and I felt in the best shape of my life. I feel like I'm still always learning things, always developing, and I just felt like I think it was the pressure that I put on myself, but I just thought I really have to thank everyone. I just have to nail this, because I was just telling myself that I knew that I could, and knowing and training is so much different. It doesn't always come into a race. And so to be able to execute it, I think, that's definitely a moment I always remember.
And it really did put you on the map for, the things to come, Emma. I think that the talent spotters, the secret was out. I mean, you finished behind Daniela Ryf, who just tomorrow lines up for the Hawaii Ironman World Championship. She's a 2-time world champion there. So to be on the podium with someone who you initially first raced against, your very first triathlon, is quite a great sign of things to come.
Oh, thanks.
And absolutely. Emma, let's do a performance round. So a few rapid fire questions. Here we go. Training session you most dislike?
Probably swimming after a brick session.
Swimming after a brick. Training session you most love?
Oh, a treadmill session.
Can you be a bit more specific?
So build run. So something like 20-20-20.
And how are you finishing off that last 20, maxing out?
Yeah, max effort, everything.
Nice. Favourite pre-race meal? What fuels Emma Pallant's 70.3 successes?
Chicken and rice.
Chicken and rice. And on the race day morning?
Bread and jam.
What sort of jam?
Strawberry, definitely strawberry.
Definitely strawberry. Bedtime, morning time, what's your routine like there, Emma?
So in general or before a race?
Both.
So normally kind of I try and get to bed around 10:30, 11 and get up to, we're in the pool by 8. So I'm pretty much a get up and go. So I'll get up about 7.
Yeah, nice. Who's the athlete that Emma Pallant most admires and why?
I'll probably have to say Michelle Dillon and Stuart Hayes, just purely because they spend every day in, day out with them, and they inspire me in not just triathlon but also everyday life. Yeah, brilliant. You mentioned when you were out in Australia, I wonder if we crossed paths. I was training for some age group stuff when Michelle and Stuart were out with a few athletes up at Runaway Bay Sports Supercentre, so we'll keep that conversation going after. Is there a mantra that you use, Emma, when you race? Anything that's regular self-talk? Yeah, I just always tell myself to make it hurt. Make it hurt. Your best recovery tip? Drink heaps of water. Worst injury? I think that's probably self-evident. Yep, the knee. Yep. Training, how would you describe your racing style? One word. Painful. How would you describe being in the zone? Floating. When was the last time you were in the zone? Probably we did a big brick session 2 days ago. I'd say that was very zoning. And what's the hardest thing you've ever done in training? Probably finish off a 2-hour run when I'd run out of water and fuel. and that didn't end up in the collapsed state again? No, I felt close to it. And what's the funniest thing you've ever seen out training or racing, Emma? Geez, the funniest thing. I'd probably say I've produced the funniest thing when in a run session I ran into a lamppost and knocked myself clean out. I think, people were talking about that for a while after. Is that in your triathlon days or your running days? Yeah, no, the running days.
Oh, Emma, so what's on your bucket list, both inside sport and outside of sport? Well done, you're out of the performance round. That's your threshold session for the day.
Bucket list, I would probably say, so Kona definitely, that tops the bucket list. Inside triathlon. And then outside triathlon, I want to do dance classes one time because, yeah, I just love dancing.
Well, your brother can surely give you some instruction there.
I wouldn't listen to him. No way.
Family knowledge doesn't always get well received. How soon might we see you at Kona, Emma? Can you let that one out?
Yeah, well, next year I'm going to do my first Ironman. So, yeah, I'm not sure. Let's see how it goes.
Brilliant. So, and any Ironman picked out yet, or you're still looking at races?
Yeah, to be honest, I haven't looked yet, but I'm definitely thinking one in Europe.
One in Europe, look out. And Emma, you went from the 70.3 podium silver medal there in Chattanooga behind Daniela Riff to Super League in Jersey, where we first met. What was that like, the women's debut in the Super League? And how'd you find it?
Yeah, I'm going to use my favourite word, painful again. It was definitely a shock to the system. It was always one of those things kind of, I watched the men in Hamilton Island and I thought it's such an exciting way of triathlon. And yeah, I wasn't under any illusion. I knew that it would be, after just purely training for 70.3, that would be a really tough day in the office, but I loved every minute of it. I loved going into the schools. I loved the way that the whole community in Jersey just got behind it, and it just felt like a massive kind of 4-day festival. Yeah, I loved it.
It was a fantastic event, wasn't it? So, Emma, if you could boil everything down that you've learned through all your years of competing at a high level, both your running career and your professional triathlon career, to one bit of advice, what would that be, Emma? Your solitary bit of advice for people looking to pursue their physical best who are listening in today.
One thing I would say is have someone on the outside that can look in. So someone that you trust, so where I went wrong with my injury, with the times I've got ill, it's just when I haven't listened to the expertise that have surrounded me, kind of when I've gone off and I've done the extra bits, when I've done the, like, more isn't always more. It's kind of a lot's about smart training as well. It's the quality of training. And if you build up that relationship with someone that knows you well, that you trust, know everything that you're doing, then yeah, you can develop the best program around you. So yeah, just being smart with that and tailoring everything to progression. I think, like, you don't have to smash everything all at once to be where you want to be. It's something that takes time. And just gradual progression. And
Emma, it's a bit of a fun question. If you could have dinner with 3 people, living or past, who would be at Emma Pallant's table and why?
Ooh. Okay, so I'd probably have to go for, that is a good question. I think a chef to cook the dinner. So I am a horrific cook, so I'd go for someone like Jamie Oliver, like him. Probably... someone with lots of stories. Pink, I love her music, and I think she would have a lot of good chat. And then another guy to even it out, probably just go for someone good to look at. Like I know he's not around, but you said past or present.
Yeah, correct. Well, that's a fascinating table. Very interesting. I thought you might have said Gordon Ramsay. Obviously credentialed chef and also an Ironman triathlete, taking a few lessons from Kona from him, but maybe not. Emma, all guests on the program issue listeners with a physical challenge. It can be entry level or it can be extremely difficult. What's Emma Pallant's physical challenge for the week to listeners going to be?
Oh, okay. So I will go for Monday, do a 10-minute time trial. So whatever it be, get power on your bike, go on a watt bike, go on a turbo with your power. But do your best effort. So warm up and cool down as well. But do your best effort for 10 minutes. Then next day, do a steady swim. Then the next day, do the same. So a bike effort, but try and hold the same power that you held on Monday, but for 11 minutes. Then the next day, a steady run. And then the next day, again, you probably got it. You do 12 minutes, best effort, trying to hold the same power. And then steady swim, then do it 13 minutes, best effort. Steady run, and then finish the week on the 14 minutes, best effort. And yeah, see if you can finish the 14 minutes the same as you started the week for the 10 minutes.
And Emma, this is alongside your other set training sessions? These are additionals, or these are the solitary session?
I'd say that if you do it properly, that will be enough for the week. You can add in a bit of yoga, a bit of gym strength work, but yeah, or maybe increase the volume of your steady run and steady swim. But yeah, that's more than enough intensity if you give it the big ones.
And so, brilliant. Listeners, if you take on Emma's challenge for the week, physical challenge, be sure to tag Emma in and myself and let us know how you've gone with it. Emma, on that, where can listeners find you online, and where can we follow your journey towards the Ironman distance and also further 70.3 successes?
So I'm on Facebook. I don't really use my Facebook athlete page, but yeah, I probably should. But yeah, I'm on Twitter and Instagram, and also Team Dylan Coaching. They've got an awesome Facebook page and keep everything kind of updated on there. And my team, BMC-Etixx Pro Triathlon team, again, they often tweet live at a race, etc. They always have the good race news.
Fantastic. And listeners, we'll tag all of Emma's handles up and all the websites and supporters and sponsors Emma's got there on the show notes. So jump over to POGO Physio and check those out. Emma Pallant, we're on the eve of Kona 2017. I'm interested, who are your podium picks for the men and the women for Kona 2017?
Oh, so probably going to stay safe. For the women, I will go for Daniela. Second place, I want to see Sarah Crowley because she is gutsy, gives it everything. And then third place, fellow hoccer athlete, I'm going to go for Heather Jackson.
Fantastic. And the men?
The men, so I have to put my BMC boys in there. I'm going to say Ronnie first, Bart second, and Patrick third.
Nice.
Just in age order because I can't separate them any other way.
Well, you're very loyal. That's beautiful. Emma, who's the athlete you would like to now tag to have them feature on the Physical Performance Show?
So I'm always interested in swim tips. So I'm going to tag Varga because he's a good laugh as well. All
right. Well, Richard Varga, if you're listening in, we're coming for you, the fish of the triathlon world, and you need to share plenty of tips for Emma. So Emma Pallant, you're a delight. I think there's such exciting days ahead for you in the sport of triathlon, and certainly I know you've garnered some fans from your Jersey Super League outing and how you conducted yourself, including me. So wish you all the very best on behalf of the listeners of the Physical Performance Show.
Oh, thank you so much, Brad.
So, listeners, there you have it. Another episode of the Physical Performance Show. I hope you enjoyed Emma Pallant today. And if you did, be sure to share it around. If you're a triathlete, pass it on to fellow triathletes. In particular, if you're a long course triathlete aspiring to your best, then that would mean the world to both Emma and myself. You can find Emma on social media and all of Emma's social media handles over at the show notes at pogophysio.com.au. Listeners, if you have been enjoying the program, please consider taking the time to leave a review. Reviews help the Physical Performance Show get in the earbuds of fellow peak performers like yourself, and it just spreads the word around. So I'd appreciate that. You can do that over at iTunes on your desktop computer, And a massive thanks to this week, Nathan Shooter. Nathan rated the Physical Performance Show recently 5 stars. And Nathan commented, Brad's refreshing approach to delivering physical performance insights makes learning easy. Nathan, I am thrilled that you're enjoying it, and more so that you are taking learnings from the guests sharing. So thanks very much, Nathan, for taking the time. Listeners, if you're into running, be sure to check out my running and jogging bestseller, You Can Run Pain-Free. It's 330 pages, packed full of a 5-step method to ensure that you do what the cover promises, and that's run pain-free. You can pick up your copy in Audible format now over at iBooks or Audible, and also good old paperback versions via Amazon and also POGO Physio inside Australia. If you're overseas and you'd like to pick up a copy, then check out all manners of the book, Kindle versions included, on Amazon. Listeners, coming up in next week's episode of the Physical Performance Show, I catch up with Lucy Bartholomew. Lucy is a young lady taking the ultra trail running world by storm. She's the 2017 Ultra Trail Australia champion and also completed an ultra at the tender age of 16 years. It's a great story into all things ultra running and the purity of performing at your physical best and the unending pursuit. So be sure to join us next week for the Physical Performance Show. Until then, keep pursuing your physical best performance. I'm Brad Beer, and this has been the Physical Performance Show.